Silence is your weapon. They threw you into the fire and waited for the sound of your screams. They leaned in close, listening for the crack in your voice, the confession of defeat, the proof that they had won. They wanted noise. They wanted drama. They wanted your pain to echo so they could feel powerful. But you gave them nothing. You stood there, breathing in the smoke, feeling the heat crawl across your skin, and you said nothing. That was the moment everything changed, because silence, your silence, was never weakness. Silence was the blade they never saw coming. They expected you to beg. They expected you to explain yourself, to defend your heart, to justify your worth. They expected you to shatter, to collapse under the weight of their words, their betrayal, their indifference. They thought you needed them to understand you. They thought you needed their approval to survive. But what they never understood is that you were learning how to breathe underwater. While they were busy talking, judging, laughing, you were adapting, you were listening, you were watching, and in the quiet, something ancient woke up inside you. Let's be honest. There was a time when their opinions lived rent-free in your mind. Every word they said replayed like a broken record. Every insult stuck like a thorn. Every betrayal cut deeper than the last. They spoke loudly, confidently, cruelly, and you believed them for a while. You thought strength meant reacting. You thought power meant proving them wrong with words. You thought survival meant being understood. But reality taught you something far more dangerous. Silence doesn't mean you have nothing to say. Silence means you've realized they're not worth hearing. In the beginning, the quiet was painful. It felt like standing alone in a vast, empty room with your thoughts screaming back at you. No distractions, no applause, no validation. Just you, and the truth hurt. You saw where you compromised yourself. You saw where you stayed too long. You saw how often you gave your energy to people who only knew how to drain it. That realization burned. It stripped you down. It left you exposed. But fire doesn't only destroy. Fire refines, so you stayed quiet. Not because you were afraid, but because you were learning. You learned how to sit with discomfort without running. You learned how to feel pain without letting it define you. You learned how to observe without reacting, while they kept shouting into the void, trying to provoke you. You were building something unshakable inside. You stopped explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You stopped defending your heart to people who never intended to protect it. You stopped proving your worth to those who thrived on doubting it, and that's when the power shifted. They noticed first in the smallest ways. Your absence from arguments they thought you'd fight. Your calm where there used to be chaos. Your lack of reaction where they expected explosions. It confused them. Why aren't they responding? Why don't they care anymore? Why doesn't this work like it used to? They didn't realize that silence had already rewritten the rules. You see, noise is predictable. Anger is easy to manipulate. Emotion is easy to control. But silence? Silence terrifies people who rely on control, because silence forces them to face themselves, and they didn't like what they saw. You kept growing in the shadows. Every quiet morning you rebuilt yourself piece by piece. Every sleepless night you learned to hold your own hand. Every unanswered message, every ignored provocation. You were sharpening your discipline, not the loud kind, the lethal kind. You became selective with your energy, intentional with your words, unapologetic with your boundaries, and slowly, very slowly, your presence changed. They could feel it when you entered a room. You didn't announce yourself, you didn't perform, you didn't seek attention, but the air shifted. Confidence doesn't need volume, power doesn't need permission, and peace doesn't ask to be understood. You carried yourself differently, like someone who had survived their own storm and made peace with the thunder. That's when they panicked, because the version of you they knew, the one who reacted, explained, chased, proved, was gone. And the version standing in front of them, unreadable, unbothered, untouchable. They tried to provoke you again, old tactics, sharp words, subtle insults dressed as jokes, but you didn't bite. You smiled, you listened, you stayed silent, and it drove them insane. Did they really think you'd stay broken forever? Did they believe pain would make you smaller instead of sharper? Did they assume survival meant submission? No, you were never meant to stay wounded. You were meant to evolve. Your silence became a mirror. Every insecurity they carried reflected back at them. Every lie they told themselves echoed in the quiet. Every fear they avoided grew louder without your reaction to distract them. They needed your chaos to feel normal. They needed your pain to feel superior. They needed your voice to drown out their own emptiness, and you denied them all of it. This is where the real transformation began. Not with revenge, not with confrontation, but with indifference. You stopped needing closure from people who never gave honesty. You stopped craving apologies from those incapable of accountability. You stopped hoping they'd change, because you had. Silence taught you patience. Patience taught you clarity. Clarity taught you power. You learned that the strongest response is no response, that the deepest victory is inner peace, that mastery is staying calm while others unravel. You became the eye of the storm. Every time they watched you move forward without looking back, it stung. Every time you succeeded quietly, it burned. Every time you smiled without explanation, it haunted them. They told themselves stories about you, that you were cold, arrogant, distant. But the truth? You were healed. And healed people don't need to scream. Your silence became a crown, not gold, not flashy, but forged from restraint, wisdom, and self-respect. You wore it effortlessly. While they exhausted themselves chasing validation, you conserved your energy. While they stayed stuck in old narratives, you wrote new chapters. While they spoke about growth, you embodied it. And then came the moment they feared most. They realized they no longer mattered. Their words no longer shaped you. Their opinions no longer guided you. Their presence no longer disturbed your peace. You were free. Freedom doesn't announce itself. Freedom whispers. It sounds like choosing yourself without guilt. It feels like walking away without hatred. It looks like living fully, deeply, unapologetically, without explanation. You didn't win by destroying them. You won by outgrowing them. Now when you speak, it's intentional, measured, rare. And when you're silent, it's deliberate, because silence is no longer absence. Silence is command. You decide who gets access to your voice. You decide who earns your energy. You decide when to engage and when to let the quiet do the work. They still talk. They always will. But now their words bounce off you like rain on stone. You've learned that storms don't last forever, but mountains do. And you are no longer weather. You are the ground beneath it. So if you're standing there right now, holding back words that once would have poured out, feeling misunderstood, underestimated, overlooked, remember this: you are not losing your voice. You are mastering it. You are not weak for staying silent. You are powerful enough to choose peace. Let them talk. Let them assume. Let them doubt. Your silence is your weapon, and when you finally speak, the world will listen, because quiet strength echoes the loudest.